I moved to California to skate in 1991, and I was writing for New Deal at the time, working at Pizza Hut and delivering groceries in the middle of the night. Eventually got a warehouse job at New Deal, and they realized I could use computers. It was time to make a new video. Steve Douglas and Paul basically handed over the keys to the kingdom and said, here, make a video. I made The Deal Is Dead in 1992. After that, I had done the Underworld Element Sky Pager video. And then I was working on like a little zine thing to promote New Deal that was basically Xeroxed and sent out to shops or whatever. And taking frame grabs from video to put in this zine, which was pretty common in the magazines at the time, but was a humongous pain in the ass. Like, to actually get stills off a high-8 tape in 1992 was a serious process. I was talking with Steve Douglas, and we were just having this conversation, you know, because I had basically just pumped out these 2 videos. Like, video stuff was going, like it was easy. And we were talking about this zine, which should have been the easiest thing in the world, and it was taking forever. And the conversation sort of went to, well, I think I said, you know, well, why don't we just leave it on video? Like, why are we putting it on paper? And Steve was, well, why don't we make a video magazine? And that was sort of the catalyst of what became Form 1, was just this idea. Found out later on that Steve had been thinking about this a little bit because a friend of his that did Rad magazine in the UK, Tim Leighton Boyce, had talked about doing a video magazine at some point. So it was just sort of this interesting convergence of ideas, timing, and technology that made it possible. It was a tough sell. I mean, for the longest time, people were like, oh, a video magazine? What are you talking about? Like, no one understood what we meant. I made a demo that had, you know, random skate footage edited, some commercials that I put together, all this stuff, just to send to people and say, okay, this is what we're talking about, because at that time, explaining the concept was really hard.
You know, it was so new that just no one knew what it was, you know, so there was a lot of just like, what are you talking about?
It was Chris Ortiz that told me about 411 and what it was going to be, and he explained it, that it was going to be everything you see in a magazine, but in a video format. So instead of seeing still photos, you're going to actually see the trick, video clips. And they were going to run different articles and features just like magazines do, but all on video. And it sounded like a good idea.
Yeah, so Gonz was scheduled for the first issue. I think it just became a little issue with some footage. He didn't feel he had enough footage to come through at the same time he was working on the 60-40 part. Jeremy Wray was sitting on some footage, and it kind of just worked in our favor that he was actually really stoked on the idea. We had shot photos a lot at that time, and he was really up for it. Because a lot of people, they're like, what's a video magazine? You know, how's it gonna look? Where's the questions gonna be? Are we gonna write this stuff out? Like, it was very just unfamiliar territory with a lot of people.
Causing chaos, I say what? Causing chaos, oh what's up? Causing chaos, I say what? Causing chaos, oh what's up? I mean chaos, I say instead of point I don't play nice. We fuck up the stuck up, triple like trip dice. We up and we have it.
After the first episode, we got a lot of feedback from the industry, a lot of people wanting to be involved. At that time, you know, company videos didn't come out as often. The internet wasn't as accessible as it is today, and so there was a lot of people that actually sat on footage. And it was kind of just at that time where we had a lot of people that wanted to work, give us the footage, and I want to say the first year was, you know, pretty easy.
There were definitely people that got it right off the bat, and mainly kids. We had always talked about just being this connection for people that cared about skateboarding. So we were connecting people to their passion. They cared about skateboarding. Every other month you get a new Form 1 and you'd be able to see what was happening in the world of skateboarding. And it really struck a nerve and caught on.
The first episode was a long one, and I remember it being well over an hour. And if you sat down and watched the whole thing start to finish, you weren't pumped to skate, you were actually drained. You felt like eating some chips or something.
The first issue was the extra beefy premiere issue, and that was strictly related to the insane amount of footage that we had gathered. 200 hours of footage, a cut it down as much as I felt I could. And my sort of guiding principle as an editor at that point was, if it's good, it goes in. It doesn't matter who the person is, it doesn't necessarily matter what it looks like. It's like, if it's good skateboarding, it goes in. You know, there's something about watching good tricks, no matter how they're filmed, that captures your imagination. You know, it's like, I always bring up Fucktards as a great example of a video that looks like shit and is amazing, because you can do that in skateboarding. You know, it doesn't have to be pristine. Skateboarding is not pristine.
It was always cool getting an opener. You know, you see it come out because you never knew if you were going to be in it or not, or where the footage was going to land. And then, you know, you'd hear that music kick on.
The opening song, Soul, the Boxcar, came about. He was actually he worked in the shipping department in the back of Giant Distribution, which 4-in-1 was underneath the umbrella of Giant. And he just gave us some songs, and it just stuck. And it just became our theme song. You know, that was our cheers.
Dun, 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 dun. I realized that we were headed in the right direction. You know, I had been working really hard for about 2 years. I edited every video of the first 11 by myself.
The editing schedule was very tough for Mr. Friedberg. I wasn't a part of those long hours and long nights. I was pretty much just on the back end, getting all the footage for him, coordinating with all the filmers, getting everything in. But once everything was handed off, Mr. Friedberg just sat on them long nights and just, yeah, he came through.
Looking back on what 4-in-1 sort of was to skateboarding at the time, it provided this connection for people that cared about it. And that's what always comes back to me, is the reason 4-in-1 was successful is because we gave a way for skateboarders to see skateboarding. This was before the internet, this was before videos. The explosion in creativity and growth was incredible, and you couldn't keep up with that if you're only putting out a video once a year. And 4-in-1 really filled that void for people. I think, you know, growing up as a kid in Kansas, so far removed from skateboarding, I understood what that connection was like. So we'd get the magazines or whatever, we finally got a video and realized how all these things happened, and it was amazing to me. And I think that we gave other people a chance to have that same experience and really connect to something that they loved. And that was, you can't ask for more than that. It was such a good, exciting, incredible, crazy, hard, you know, heartwarming sort of thing to be involved in. So I love the process we went through. I love all the people that I had a chance to work with and that I've gotten to know because of 4-in-1 and because of skateboarding.